Yo, what is up, guys? Partywaffles here, and today I got for you guys a 10.15 Unholy DK PvP guide for the new buffs that we just received. I'm ready to help you guys slay the ladder. Let's get right into this thing. I'm gonna get it short, sweet, concise, to the point. You're gonna understand everything. It's not gonna take long to digest. The spec we're playing is also gonna be very straightforward too. It's gonna be one build to rule them all. There's slight variations you can play if you want, but let's get right into this. So I'm just going to run through and highlight the things on the build here. So on the left side here, we're going to have Anti-Magic Shell. We're going to have Big Icebound Fortitude, Anti-Magic Zone, Double Death Grip, 40-yard range on our grip, and then we're going to have A-Bomb Limb and Empowered Weapon. So the things here that you can change if you want that are personal preference, you could switch Anti-Magic Barrier into Wraithwalk if you wanted. You could switch Death Strike into Wraithwalk. And those are pretty much the only variations I'm going to recommend there. So on the right side here, the build is going to be a Festering Wound build, okay? So let me just run through this with you guys. So we have Clawing Shadows, which is going to make our Scourge Strike be a ranged attack, which goes through bops, goes through armor, becomes all shadow damage, everything like that. Then we're going to have pretty much the full Death Coil package to buff our Death Coils, because Death Coil just got buffed significantly. We're going to have Magus, because you'll understand why later. Well, obviously, we already played it the whole expansion, but and then on this side, we have Bursting Sores, which Bursting Sores, every time we use a Clawing Shadows, it's going to be bursting a sore, right? So Bursting Sores is going to make those Clawing Shadows more damage in total. It's going to make our Apocalypse upfront damage be more damage in total. It's just going to be good overall, and it's going to make it cleave, so really strong. Next thing we have here is Death Rot. So Death Rot, you're going to want to apply Death Coils to get your Death Rot stacks to 10 on the other players, okay? Because if you have 10 stacks, you're going to be doing more damage. If the person you're trying to keep the stacks on goes behind the pillar, you could use Epidemic through the pillar to keep the stacks on that person, okay? Next thing we have here is Festermite. So every time you pop a wound, you're going to be getting a stacking strength percentage, okay? So since we're playing Clawing Shadows, we're going to be able to ranged Scourge Strike people. So it's going to be very easy to keep our wounds up. So we're going to be keeping these up. We're going to be keeping our necrotic wounds up. And basically, we're just going to be doing a lot of damage. So next thing we have here is Unholy Assault. Just nice to go in there, get the wounds on everybody right away, get your haste, and just get going into doing damage, right? And the next thing we have here that's notable is we have Army of the Dead, which is now an 8-minute cooldown. Nothing crazy, but we just want this so that we can have this talent. Then we have Super Strain, as per usual, and then Morbidity. So every time we have our dots on people, they're going to be taking an extra 2% per disease, right? So this is 3 diseases. This is a disease. There you go. There's extra 8% damage right there. So at all times, pretty much, we're going to have that 8% damage. And then we're not going to be playing Gargoyle because it's not very good right now. So this is almost, well, it's about, yeah, it's just a wound build. But let me explain it to you, okay? So the way this is going to work basically is you're just going to apply your wounds and you're going to be bursting your wounds. That's it. It's going to be almost like a 2-button spec. Coil and Scourge Strike, Coil and Clawing Shadows are going to be your damage, right? Your dots, you're pretty much just going to apply them for the damage boost on your main target, essentially. So let me show you a couple of variations of this, though, okay? So this one right here is we're going to call the Bursting Wound build, okay? Because it's full Clawing Shadows bursting. The only dot package that we have here is Super Strain. But there's a world where you can play it like this if you wanted to. Like, say you wanted to play full dot, okay? You could swap Plaguebringer. You could swap this to Even Fever for the extra dot damage. So then you have the 2 dot things right here that synergize with your dot. And you could also switch, say, Harbinger to Unholy Blight. So right here, for instance, would be a full dot version, okay? Which could be really good in, like, RBGs against... Honestly, it's just good in general. It does massive damage. But the main build is going to be this one, okay? If you want to change some things around with this build, it is personal preference, some things here, okay? So say, for instance, you want to drop 1 point Morbidity and take Reaping, you can do that. You want to drop 1 point Morbidity and take a Gargoyle, for instance, you could do that. You wanted to take a Ghoulish Frenzy, you can do that, right? As long as the meat and potatoes of the build stays the same, which is the Clawing Shadows and the Bursting Sores. But even if you didn't like the Clawing Shadows and you just wanted Plaguebringer, you could do this too, and in this way you'd have some extra dot damage and some Bursting Sores. But this is the way I'm going to be playing it. So Also, Rotten Touch, okay? When you get Rotten Touch procs, it's going to make your Clawing Shadows massive. So you want to make sure you're utilizing those. But this is the build right here, guys, the cookie cutter. I showed you the variations. You can switch it around. So you can try it, test it slightly different ways, see which one you like the most. But this one right here is going to be the most single target damage. The dot one that I showed you is going to be more rot damage overall, but this is going to be the most single target, which is really good for landing kills. But depending what comp you're playing, you could play the dot version. Remember, the dot version is just like this. Boom, boom. There it is. There's the dot build. You switch 3 talents and you're there. So let's quickly take a look, guys, at the PvP talents, all right? So what I'm running for this myself is going to be this. Necrotic Wounds, obviously, it's our stacking healing absorb. With Clawing Shadows, it's going to be really easy to keep those wounds on people, right? Because you have a ranged Scourge Strike, so you're going to be popping those like a madman. Next thing we have here is Necromancer's Bargain. So it's going to reduce the cooldown of our Apocalypse by 15 seconds, okay? Not only that, it's also going to apply Crypt Fever, which is anytime the enemy gets healed, it's going to reset the dot on the target, and it's just going to keep ticking for percent damage. Which is not the craziest part, but the craziest part is the fact that Apocalypse now does huge chunks of damage. You can literally do half of somebody's health with one Apocalypse. And Bursting Swords is going to help with this too, because the way Apocalypse works is it bursts 4 wounds on the target, and each wound does X amount of damage, right? But the Bursting Swords makes the wounds do more damage, 20% in fact. So you're going to have huge Apocalypse one-shots every single 30 seconds with this. Not only that, but you're also going to be summoning a Magus of the Dead every time you press it. So this is an insane talent. I would definitely recommend it. And then the third one is just Necrotic Aura, which makes them take 8% more damage. So this is what I'm playing with this build. This is what I'm playing with the dot version that I showed you as well. And yeah, let me just run through the PvP talents though, just in case. So Life and Death. This could be good in like an RBG scenario right now, or something where your dots are getting dispelled a lot. I personally don't play this in Arena. Dark Sim, if you want to make some plays, you could play this. It's kind of niche, unique though. You don't need to play this. Reanimation, I don't play this anymore. Strangulate, it's just a silence, right? You could play Strangulate if you want. You could throw it in here. You could throw it in here. The thing is that the talents are flexible now, right? But there's a lot of different ways you can play them, but I'm playing them like this personally. But yeah, if you wanted to play even, say you could throw in a Doom Burst right here and play like this, or you could play like this. But yeah, this is how I prefer to play personally. But Doom Burst will burst a wound. Burst some wounds on the targets for you. Makes your coil do big damage, essentially. Rotten Wither, don't play this. Bloodforged Armor, anytime you're fighting melee and you know they're going to hit you, play this. It's really good. You can keep it up 100% of the time. It's a 3-second from 1 death strike, so you can have full uptime on that until the people give up and stop attacking you, essentially. So, and then Spell Warden, you can put Anti-Magic Shell on your teammates. It also reduces the cooldown to 30 seconds. So if you want to play really tanky into magic, you can play that with this, and you should be good. But these are the talents that I'm playing right here, guys. So let's go ahead and talk about itemization. So, itemization. So, I'm just going to tell you the stats. If you're playing this build right here, in this variation of it, the wound variation, having higher haste is nice, okay? So, having 17 to 20% haste will be very, very nice for this build, because you're going to be spamming a lot of coils and Scourge Strikes, as well as Death and Decay, because you can cleave really hard with Death and Decay with Bursting Swords and Clawing Shadows. So, 17 to 20% haste is nice there. You could also play a little lower. I'm playing about 13% haste myself right now. In PvP combat, I have 13% haste and about 60% mastery, give or take. And then about 30% verse. So either go 13 haste full mastery if you're playing the dot version, okay? If you're playing the dot version I showed you like this, then mastery is going to be a lot stronger, right? Because haste doesn't do anything at all for your dots. So if you're playing the dot version, you can go lower haste and more mastery. Like for instance 13 haste full mastery, or just even less haste than that in full mastery. But if you're playing the wound build where you want to be spamming wounds, everything like that, a little bit of haste is nice, right? So 17 to 20. But the thing is, you don't want to go all in on haste, because I told you the apocalypses are going to be hitting a huge chunk of damage, right? And the apocalypse scales off mastery. So if you don't want 17, 20 haste for this, you could honestly play 13% haste in full mastery. Like that's what I'm playing right now, and it's working great. So honestly, it's up to you to just feel it out. But if you're playing a full dot build, I recommend mastery. If you're playing the wound build, which I'm showing in this video, I recommend a little bit of haste. So between 13 and 20%, whatever you feel the best. Like whatever feels the best for you personally. As far as tier sets and everything like that go, you could play 4-set, but the 4-set is a little bit worse now. So every time you use a coil from the 4 set, you're going to get 5% mastery because it's halved in PvP, right? So if you were to just drop, some of the tier set, like on my, I haven't done it on this DK yet, but on my other DK, I dropped these shoulders and I made verse mastery shoulders, right? So I'm losing out on 5% mastery from the 4 set when I use a coil, but it only lasts 6 seconds and I'm gaining mastery like 24/7 the entire game, right? The reason the 4 set's not as good anymore is because we're not playing gargoyle, right? We're not doing a big all-in go, like we want max mastery in the opener and we're just trying to kill something. We're kind of just a consistent damage class now. So I consistently want mastery all the time because my apocalypse is a 30-second burst cooldown now. So it's good to have mastery all the time. Yeah, so you can drop the 4-piece for the tier set. I would go 2 set. So maybe I would drop these gloves and I would get verse mastery gloves, and I would drop these shoulders and I would go verse mastery shoulders, okay? So, but it's up to you. The way you build your gear, obviously you're going to want to play this trinket right here, but the thing is, with crafting right now, you can craft any piece you want, right? So it doesn't really matter what pieces you get, just craft to the stats that you want. So say you want to go 13% haste, 30% verse, and the rest mastery, you can do that, right? Just use the sparks, craft the pieces you want. Say, I'll give you an example. Say this belt right here, right? Actually, it's already verse mastery. Anyway, say, whatever, pretend this is the PvP belt. I already crafted it, right? But if this was the PvP belt, it would be versed haste, right? But say I didn't want the verse haste, I wanted more verse mastery. So you can craft any individual piece with work orders that you want for any stats you want, okay? So just pick the stats that you want. So say 13% haste in arena, and then full mastery, 30% verse, and then just itemize yourself to those stats, okay? And if you want a little bit more haste, just craft another haste item, buy another haste item, whatever. Just build your stats to what you're trying to do, with what you're trying to achieve, okay? Because it's endless possibilities right now since you can craft unlimited items. The only limit is the embellished items. You can only have 2 embellished items. As far as embellishments go for DK, they're pretty trash, I'm going to be honest with you. I would go the boots for the interrupting one for the primary set, and then the second one is going to be up to you. Some people play Shadow Flame on the legs. Some people play mastery above 90%. Some people play the haste proc. The second embellishment's up to you. Realistically, they're all pretty trash in my opinion. So I'm playing Shadow Flame and the mastery one on my other DK. But that's as far as itemization goes. So it's pretty straight. You can just go 2 set of tier and then just build for the stats that you need. So that's it. As far as rune forges goes, guys, it's going to be Fallen Crusader, obviously. We're playing Unholy. There's not really another option. It's just straight Fallen Crusader. The next thing we're going to talk about here is going to be damage and rotation. Actually, one last thing. A lot of people ask me about race, okay? Race does not matter that much right now, guys. I'm going to be honest. Just pick the race. Like, I play Blood Elf, Human, and Orc. And honestly, I don't notice a difference between any, besides the fact that when I'm not on my Blood Elf, I don't have my Purge. So I actually kind of like the Blood Elf Purge for solo shuffle and everything like that. But honestly, races don't matter that much anymore. Just pick the one you think looks the coolest. You'll be fine. Now, as far as damage goes for this class, it's going to be a lot more straightforward than it used to be. So the other builds we were playing were a lot harder. This is very simple build, okay? So the gist of it's going to be like this. You want to have your dot on the people because we're playing morbidity, right? So it's going to make them take more damage. So keep your dot on the people, and then all it's going to be is apply your wounds with Festering Strike, and then burst your wounds with Clawing Shadows. Burst your wounds with Clawing Shadows. When you get a Death Coil proc like this, make sure, see, when you get the proc, it's going to give you Rotten Touch, right? So after that, your Scourge Strikes are going to do a lot more damage to the target. So try to utilize your Rotten Touch. But one other thing you want to pay attention to is keeping your Death Rot stacks from Death Coil up, okay? You want to try to keep your Death Coil stacks, your Death Rot stacks at 10%, because look, they're taking increased shadow damage, right? And your Clawing Shadows is shadow damage. So if you keep that Death Rot at 10%, it's going to be doing more damage. Not only that, though, you want to try to keep your Death Rot up, and you want to try to keep your Necrotic Wounds up as much as possible. So that's going to be the name of the game for you there. But that's all it comes down to is keep your dot on the target, and then literally coil and spam wound, coil for your runic power, and Clawing Shadows to burst your wounds. That's literally it. It's basically 2 buttons, okay? So our burst isn't going to be like it used to be either. Our cooldowns are all, you can use your cooldowns all separately now. It doesn't actually matter. So essentially, Dark Transformation now is essentially for the kick or the root. So say this person's casting, boom, I would kick him or root him with that, right? Like, that's essentially what Dark Transformation is for. You're not going to stack everything like you used to back in the day, right? A lot of them are going to be separate. As far as Army of the Dead goes, if you're using your 4-piece, your Army of the Dead will give you the stacks right away. If you're not using it, it doesn't really matter. It's just an extra damage button. It lasts really long. Just use it whenever. I like to just send it in the opener generally. But it's not like a cut and dry burst rotation anymore. So I'll just give you an idea of bursting. Basically, your cooldowns don't matter anymore. Okay, this is a kick. This is just a grip. And then this is a tiny bit of haste. And then this is just a little bit of damage. And then this is to apply your wounds, right? So your cooldowns don't actually matter. You can use them individually now if you need to, like as they come up, everything like that. But the main thing is going to be just the normal rotation I showed you. And then the other thing is going to be this. So Death and Decay with bursting swords is going to cleave a lot of damage, okay? Like you're bursting wounds on multiple people and the Death and Decay applies wounds. So make sure when you have people stack, your Death and Decay cleaving, okay? That's going to be very important with this build. It's imperative. But the main one shot of this build is going to be like this, okay? So go in, you can press your cooldowns, right? So I go in, Army of the Dead, press my cooldowns, I run at the guy, Unholy Assault, and then sure, I send my Dark Transformation, A-Bomb Limb. We'll just send it all, right? The same rotation we used to. And then, but the main damage is this, right? Your Apocalypse. This is your big damage. Boom, Apocalypse. Every 30 seconds, you're going to have a massive Apocalypse hit. So basically, just try to maintain your Death Rot, try to maintain your dots on the main target, and then just try to maximize your wounds, and that's it. But it's essentially just going to be 2-button Unholy, right? So say I'm fighting this guy, I'm bursting my wounds, bursting my wounds, bursting my wounds, get some coils, get some, like, you don't want to try to overcap your runic power if you can help it, but that's pretty much it. Like, You'll get the gist of it. It's really straightforward. Just spam coils and spam clawing shadows, and then when your Apocalypse is up, just try to send Apocalypse, and it's going to do a huge, massive chunk of their damage, of their HP. Sorry, and you can use the Apocalypse to finish people off and everything like that. So, wait, I can actually clap this guy. Apoc! Oh my God! See, chat. If anyone sits low HP like that, just kill them instantly with Apoc. I think you guys will find this build is a lot more straightforward than the one last season. And yeah, I'm trying to think of what else to tell you. There's really not that much for this build though. Once again though, of course, if you're playing the dot build, if you're playing Plaguebringer instead of clawing, obviously you want to keep your Plaguebringer up, right? So try and Scourge Strike to keep 100% of that up, but that's not what this main build is about here. Yeah, and that's it. So just basically do this. Watch. Just boom, Apocalypse, and that's it. Like I said, your cooldowns, send this in the opener, send this when you want to put your wounds on the target, send this when you want to do a kick or do a root. You can also use it as a little bit of damage, and then obviously Empowered Rune Weapon and A-Bomb Limb, or you can just send those in the opener if you want, or whenever you're trying to do damage. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. It's pretty straightforward here. Not much else to tell you about this build, honestly. So if you guys have any other questions though, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. Like the video if it helps you out, and yeah, enjoy the show, guys. I will be live on twitch.tv/PartyWafflesX playing Unholy and Frost all day every day pretty much, so come see me there, guys. Until then, take it easy. Peace.